Twist villains are some of the most memorable characters in storytelling because they surprise the audience while still making sense once their true nature is revealed. Two great examples are Turbo from Wreck-It Ralph and Ernesto de la Cruz from Coco. Both are unforgettable examples of what storytellers call twist villains. They were introduced in ways that hide their darker motives, but gave clever hints throughout their stories, which revealed the truth and also build tension, making them believable. Today we're diving into the details of foreshadowing the twist villains, Turbo and Ernesto. In Wreck-It Ralph, Turbo's character begins as a legend within the video game world, a name that is spoken about more in whispers than in direct conversation. Other characters refer to him as though he is more myth than reality, a warning story passed down from one generation of classic game characters to the next. Once upon a time, Turbo was the greatest racer of his era, celebrated by fans and respected by competitors. His speed, charm, and talent made him the star of his game, a figure admired and even envied by those around him, but his glory did not last forever. When a newer racing game stole the spotlight, Turbo could not accept being replaced. His desperate attempt to reclaim attention ended in disaster, and his once bright career crumbled before everyone's eyes. After his downfall, Turbo vanished. No one knew where he went or what became of him, but his name lived on as a warning. The story of his arrogance and failure spread like an urban legend, reminding others of what happens when pride takes over. Within the world of Wreck-It Ralph, this legend creates a sense of mystery. The audience hears just enough about him to be intrigued, but not enough to expect him to ever return. He feels like a ghost from the past, a figure whose presence lingers only in memory. This clever storytelling choice is what makes Turbo's eventual reappearance so powerful. The myth planted early in the film sets the stage perfectly. Viewers are prepared to believe he could come back, but because the details are vague, they never predict when or how. By keeping his true fate hidden until the right moment, the filmmakers ensure that his return is both shocking and believable. What was once only a whispered story suddenly becomes a terrifying reality, turning a forgotten legend into the villain at the center of the plot. Also, from the beginning of the movie, the seeds of Turbo's villainy are planted in subtle ways. His story is filled with clues that point toward obsession and insecurity. We learn that he was so desperate to stay in the spotlight that he abandoned his own game and invaded another one. This selfish act led to the destruction of both games, which is why the other characters use his name as a warning, going Turbo. And the phrase itself is clever foreshadowing. It describes what happens when someone lets pride and desperation take over, even if it ruins everything around them. The audience might not realize it at first, but the legend of Turbo foreshadows the danger he will bring later in the film. When Ralph enters the game Sugar Rush, the story layers on more hints that something is wrong. The ruler of Sugar Rush, King Candy, behaves oddly. He panicked when Ralph began to change the game and was desperate to keep control. At first, it seems like King Candy is just a quirky ruler trying to protect his world, but his frantic behavior, his manipulative nature, and his obsession with keeping Vanellope from racing all reveal something deeper. On a second viewing, these traits connect directly to Turbo's past personality. The writers carefully showed us King Candy's cracks in character, but they never reveal the full truth until the time is right. When King Candy is finally unmasked as Turbo in disguise, the audience realizes the clues were there all along. This makes the twist satisfying, not random. Also, Turbo's story is more than a villain reveal. It is a lesson about jealousy, bitterness, and the destructive power of obsession. He represents what Ralph could become if Ralph let his feelings of rejection and insecurity consume him. In a way, Turbo is a dark version of Ralph. Both characters are underdogs, but while Ralph tries to earn respect in healthy ways, Turbo seeks it through control and destruction. This parallel gives depth to the story, turning Turbo into more than just a villain. He is a warning about what happens when someone cannot let go of pride and resentment. That is why his twist works so well. It connects to the film's themes and characters, not just the plot. On the other hand, Ernesto de la Cruz in Coco follows a similar path, but with his unique style. Ernesto is introduced as the greatest musician Mexico has ever known. He is adored by the public, remembered as a legend, and celebrated even after death. To Miguel, the young hero of the story, Ernesto represents everything he dreams of becoming, a famous musician who lives forever through his songs. This setup makes Ernesto seem like a role model. His charm, his charisma, and his glamorous image make him easy to trust. But just like Turbo, Ernesto's perfect image hides a much darker truth waiting to be revealed. The movie plants small clues about Ernesto's real nature from the start. One of the most important hints given is Miguel's family's silence about him. Despite his fame, Ernesto is left out of the family's ofrenda, which seems strange at first. Miguel does not understand why his family avoids mentioning Ernesto, but the audience begins to suspect that there must be a reason. Another hint is in Ernesto's polished appearance. He looks too perfect, too carefully constructed, almost like an image rather than a person. His words and actions are rehearsed to maintain a flawless reputation, which makes sense once we learn he has been hiding a terrible secret. When Ernesto finally enters the story in the land of the dead, his warm welcome and generous behavior continue the illusion. He acts like a mentor to Miguel, offering him attention and encouragement, but subtle hints still slip through. His body language, his careful choice of words, and the unease of characters like Hector all suggest that Ernesto's public image does not match his private reality. The filmmakers never reveal the truth too early. Instead, they let suspicion slowly build until the shocking moment when Ernesto's crimes are exposed. He murdered Hector to steal his songs and claim them as his own. That revelation completely changes the audience's view of him, transforming him from idol to villain in an instant. What makes Ernesto's twist so powerful is not just the betrayal of Miguel, but also the betrayal of the audience. Viewers are led to admire Ernesto, just as Miguel does, only to discover that he represents everything hollow and dangerous about fame. His story gives a warning about pursuing success without morality. Ernesto cared only about his reputation and was willing to kill to protect it. His villainy is rooted not in physical strength, but in selfishness, lies, and manipulation. This makes him realistic and frightening because he reflects the real-world dangers of people who sacrifice values for power and glory. Like Turbo, Ernesto's story also connects to the larger themes of his film. Coco is about family, memory, and the legacy we leave behind. Ernesto's false legacy, built on theft and murder, stands in stark contrast to Hector's true legacy of love and music. By exposing Ernesto, the film reinforces the message that real legacy comes not from fame, but from the love and connections we leave with others. Ernesto's downfall is powerful because it proves that lies cannot last forever, no matter how glamorous they appear. His character becomes a symbol of everything Miguel must reject to follow his true path. Altogether, Turbo and Ernesto show how foreshadowing makes twisted villains memorable and meaningful. Their stories do not only rely on sudden surprises that appear out of nowhere. Instead, they are carefully designed so that the twist feels won't be avoided once revealed. Every storyline in the movie, every piece of lore, and every strange behavior contributes to the final reveal. When the audience learns the truth, it not only shocks them, but also makes them re-examine everything they saw earlier. On a second viewing, the films feel richer because the hints become clearer. This shows how powerful foreshadowing can be when used with precision and care. Another strength of both villains is how they serve as mirrors to the protagonists. Turbo reflects Ralph's struggle with identity and acceptance, showing what Ralph might become if he gave into bitterness. Ernesto reflects Miguel's dream of fame, warning him about the dangers of valuing glory over family. These mirrors make the villains feel essential to the story, not just obstacles. They represent the themes and give the heroes something deeper to overcome than just physical challenges. By defeating Turbo and Ernesto, Ralph and Miguel are not only saving their worlds, but also affirming their values. The brilliance of these twisted villains lies in how they change the story itself. Turbo's reveal redefines the conflict in Wreck-It Ralph, transforming King Candy from a comic character into a serious threat. Ernesto's reveal shifts Coco from a celebration of music into a story about truth, justice, and the meaning of legacy. In both cases, the twist reshapes the narrative, forcing the characters and the audience to see everything differently. That transformation is what makes twist villains so effective when done well. They do not just surprise, they deepen the story. Especially when we look back at Turbo and Ernesto, it becomes clear that their power as villains comes from a combination of elements: the use of myth and legend, the careful planting of hints, the construction of charming disguises, and the connection to the heroes' journeys all work together. These elements make their stories not just about evil acts, but about human flaws like pride, jealousy, and greed. That is why their twists resonate with audiences. We recognize the dangers they represent in our own lives, whether it is the hunger for attention or the temptation to chase fame without integrity. Also, Turbo and Ernesto are remembered not simply because they surprised us, but because their stories were built with care and meaning. They show how foreshadowing can turn a plot twist into something more, a reflection of the story's heart and a lesson about human nature. Audiences may gasp when the truth is revealed, but what stays with them is the deeper message. Turbo warns us about letting bitterness destroy us, while Ernesto warns us about chasing empty glory. Both villains prove that the best twists are not tricks but truths waiting to be uncovered. What do you think about these foreshadowed twist villains, Turbo and Ernesto? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments section. Don't forget to subscribe and share this video. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.